Welcome back to the Passback Podcast, sponsored by the Texas A&M University Media Gaming Lab. I am your host, Jackson Moss, alongside Cade Young. And so our overall score, or I'm sorry, not overall score, but our overall record drops to 5-4. We lose a tough one in Oxford. It comes down to the final field goal of the game, missed by Randy Bond. I believe it was tipped by an Ole Miss player. Randy Bond's like 60% on the season. There's a couple issues that we're having that we still need to iron out, especially our offensive line still needs to pick it up a little bit. Well, what was your overall thoughts on the game, Cade?
It's probably the toughest loss of the year, honestly, because the way that they were driving down the field at the end and actually scoring for once, the O-line blocked. But, I mean, even though DeBerry made Harris look like Randy Moss, he was making some pretty crazy catches. So
Yeah, no, there's always one wide receiver, it seems like, every week that we decide to make look amazing. But Max Johnson, I mean, honestly, we'll get more into the recap here in a little bit, but 31 for 42, 305 yards total, one touchdown, one interception. Obviously, we could really do without the interception kind of at the end there, but I can't be really too picky. This is definitely one of Max Johnson's best games that he's had.
Yeah.
And, a little bit more blocking from the offensive line I think helps. But, yeah, no, I mean, offensively on Ole Miss's side of things, we completely expected them to come out and have a amazing game against us. I think it was, around 500-something total yards that we allowed, with one of the best defenses in the nation. It's just unacceptable. You just can't do that. You're not going to win games like that.
Right. At least we're bowl eligible still.
I don't know, man. We're starting to really scare me.
If they can clinch it.
I don't know if we can make another bowl, but
even if they don't, it's baseball season.
It is baseball season here in College Station. We are already on the baseball season, which is very exciting, by the way. We're going to cover that in the spring, so I'm looking forward to that. But so for players of the week, I'll start with defense. I had Jacoby Matthews. I think he obviously had that big, field goal touchdown, which I don't know when the last time we saw that was. I think the stat said 2017 was our last field goal block ever. So it was cool. It was interesting to see Jacoby Matthews kind of turn the tide there and switch up the momentum when we really needed it to be switched up. Right before halftime, and it was starting to look like it was going towards a blowout there, and looking like it was going to be a 21-0 game before half. But yeah, no. Who'd you have on the offensive side of things?
Well, it has to be Ja'Day Walker. He stepped up huge with Evan Stewart out, and I didn't think I'd ever said Ja'Day Walker would be our leading receiver this year, but Max just kept going to him all game, especially at the end there.
Yeah.
I mean, he threw to Ja'Day at the end almost as much as he threw to the defense.
Yeah. But
they kept dropping all those picks.
Yeah, that's right. And Ja'Day Walker he's becoming more prevalent in our offense. I think a good comparison to him, though, there's a little bit, consistency issues on catching. I think a good comparison is actually, I think he wore the same number as Jalen Preston towards the end of his season or his career.
I love Jalen.
Jalen Preston, yeah, no, he was one of our more consistent wide receivers who kind of got a little bit more inconsistent towards the end of things. But, Ja'Day Walker comes out and has a pretty good game, though, against Ole Miss, and we needed him, obviously. It was nice to see us actually throw across the middle a little bit more this time, and I think that's something that we should have been doing from the start of the season.
Yeah.
I think we have the talent to do that, and I think that's what kind of makes the Alabamas and the Ole Miss is great. I think Ole Miss actually scored a really long slant pass on us, touchdown this game, but
Ole Miss had very simple route patterns and plays, but it works because they just execute. And A&M's biggest thing is execution right now.
It's always not a good thing when you see a clipboard flying up in the air from the sidelines.
Yeah.
Luckily, we didn't have to see that, but I think Ja'Day Walker was awesome though. As far as hopping into the recap of the Ole Miss game is, I think we talked about Max Johnson being kind of the main story here, and he had a great day. Aside from the interception, which by the way, he doesn't throw that interception and it turns into a touchdown, we might win this game.
Yeah.
I think that's something to remember. We got the stop that we needed. Just had to go down and kick the field goal. Randy Bond, like I said, misses short. And, if it's not one thing, it's another with this A&M football team. And I think a lot of people are kind of getting tired of losing the games that we should be winning. And especially in close ways like this, it gets a little bit frustrating.
Yeah, there's always something. I mean, we expect the secondary every week to kind of not, especially against good offenses, just give up a lot of yards. But our O line finally played good. Max Johnson finally played good, and our special teams lets us down. Like there is always something.
Which I'm kind of glad you said that because it's something that we need to touch on this week that we've touched on before is we need to get a special teams coach. I think that's very, very clear now.
Yeah.
Jimbo, I know, doesn't believe in special teams coaches, but it's time to start second guessing and reevaluating having a special teams coach and seeing what works and what doesn't. Because, I mean, it's yet again another week where our special teams is losing us this football game. And I don't know what's been up with Nick Constantino. He's had a pretty decent career here at A&M. This season, for some reason, though, he's struggled a little bit with punts. And, I mean, I don't know why. I don't know if he's in his head or if it's mental, but we have to be able to flip the field against these good SEC teams, especially when we're down in our own end zone. Almost is what it seems like. But yeah, no, Nick Constantino is trending downward for some reason, and no one knows why, which is super frustrating.
Yeah, I saw last week he was averaging, or not 2 weeks ago, he was averaging 37 yards a punt. That's not
doable. Yeah, and he won't go to the league doing that.
No. Definitely not Braden Man.
Yeah, no, definitely not Braden Man. Braden Man's once every like 10 years.
Mm-hmm.
So, but defensive line, letting up a little bit more run yards than I would like. To be honest, it still is Quinshon Judkins that we're dealing with, one of the better running backs in the SEC.
Yeah.
But like I said, still with a front seven that's that good, you just can't let up that many yards. And especially when you're not helping out your secondaries, which, by the way, got completely exploited and made Ole Miss look like they have which, granted, one of the catches was actually really unbelievable. His one-handed.
That was insane.
Yeah, that was a catch. That was a good catch. But I mean, we're just making them every single team we play look like they have a first-round draft pick wide receiver when they're covered by Josh DeBerry, and I think people are starting to get frustrated about that as well. The problem is, who do you put in? Who do you put in behind him? I mean,
especially with the injuries that happened during the game.
Yeah.
Like that freshman holding the guy where the ball was like 20 feet.
Yeah.
In the air, that was the highlight of the day for A&M. Honestly.
Yeah. Speaking of injuries, don't know if it's confirmed yet, but the rumor circulating around College Station is that Max Johnson has broken ribs. And if that's the case, then we go to Jalen Henderson, which I'm not going to lie. I always love a good quarterback battle and like seeing who we have in the depth chart just in case things go south, just to know. I think if Jalen Henderson comes out here this week, I think it'll be very interesting. And who knows, the offense might be a little bit different. But if Jalen Henderson comes out and doesn't have blocking this week, I'm really worried about the outcome of this game, even though it's at Kyle.
I can't even lie. I don't know who that is.
He's our third-string quarterback from Fresno. We got him as a transfer. He's a sophomore.
Okay.
Behind him is Marcel Reed, freshman.
I know.
True freshman. So
I thought he was the backup.
Some people were saying that he might come in and get his time to shine a little bit over Jalen Henderson, but I'll believe that when I see it. Yeah, I mean, no question about it. I think if, we don't fire Adazio after the season, it's going to be big question marks from the donors, from, even Ross Bjork. I don't think he'll let that happen. But I think we need something to change on the offensive line. We can't keep settling for mediocrity, especially when we're down our starting quarterback. With Max Johnson, or with a good offensive line, Max Johnson has a lot more opportunities. Max Johnson probably also isn't hurt, and he's probably passing for almost 300 yards every single game.
Yeah.
We have the wide receiver talent to do it. Just Max Johnson just can't stay healthy as of right now. And and don't get me wrong, he doesn't play the cleanest games all the time, but once again, that's kind of hard to play a clean game when your offensive line isn't blocking for you.
Yeah, I really wish they block because it's hard to see. Like, we have Jade Walker, Anaya Smith, Noah Thomas, Jake Johnson, even Evan Stewart, like Moose Muhammad.
Yeah.
A lot of them don't even get 100 yards in a game this year because our passing game just can't get downfield.
Which, by the way, that kind of frustrates me a little bit about Moose Muhammad because He
He's
is
got
so
no
good.
touches.
And if he transfers, I mean, I really don't blame him. He's got the talent to be an SEC starting wide receiver.
Yeah.
I know he's kind of in a battle right now with I think it's Ja'Day Walker. But still, I mean, he's so good. And last year he proved to be so good, and just frustrates me that we're not using him as much. But yeah, no. And I think one more thing I kind of noticed, and I've noticed as of recently, was that it seems like we're starting to feel more and more like this is Jimbo's offense, and he's putting Bobby Petrino in a box, kind of, and not letting him do his thing. There's a lot of things that were very characteristic of Jimbo.
Mm-hmm.
One thing I will say that has changed, and we talked about it for the game before this, but Jimbo's starting to go for 4th and 1s. He's starting to run the QB sneak, which I love, by the way.
It's the best
For some reason, we never ran the QB sneak for the past couple of years until Bobby Petrino got here.
Mm-hmm.
Always ends up being successful. We had a pretty high 3rd down conversion rate against Ole Miss. And also taking shots at the end zone before halftime is also something that he's starting to do, which I'm happy to see.
Yeah.
And little things like that are going to help us win big SEC games. But word on the street is he's got one more year here. Jimbo's got one more year, so I don't think he'll get fired this season.
I don't either, and I'm very, I'm one of the least anti-Jimbo people, but, there is no question mark about Adazio.
Yeah.
He definitely has to go. And, we saw that. Did you see that 5-star for 2024 decommit?
I've seen all of them. I've seen all of the 5 stars, and that's.
I think that's a huge part. Is the O-line play. It's not very
it's
convincing
sad
here.
It's an unfortunate thing that it's such a domino effect right now with the recruiting and losing games. That's the problem with losing these big time games. Is you're not only hurting yourself now, but you're hurting yourself in the future. Whenever people don't want to come to A&M because we can't win those games.
Mm-hmm.
I think we're at the last 9 road games are all losses. We have 9 straight losses, which is the highest in the FBS, I think.
Yeah.
So we just can't figure it out on the road, and I don't know what it is specifically about road games, but it's becoming a little bit frustrating to say the least. We're 6 years into the experiment now with Jimbo, and we're at the point where those questions need to be answered. As far as one more positive thing to talk about, though, the defense, on Saturday, kind of, I'm happy with, how hard they're playing. I saw, Shamar Turner obviously had that stupid penalty, which,
oh man,
gosh, that made me mad. That was the last thing we needed.
He was huge up to that point too.
It's just not mature at all. And Shamar was huge in that game, and just losing him to something like that is just ridiculous. And you can't do that as a mature athlete. And that's the difference between starters and third strings, is you got to know better than that. But
right,
we definitely had the chance to have a really good game defensively. Our secondaries just keep killing us.
I would just want to see one overtime game. Every week that we lose, it gets, besides Miami, obviously. There's been a chance to send it to overtime or win at the end, but they just never can.
I'd prefer to forget about the Miami game for good. I honestly forgot it happened at the beginning of the season.
You know what? At least they scored 3 touchdowns in the second half. They haven't scored a single touchdown in the second half in 4 weeks before this.
Yeah, no, there's been some ridiculous stats about Texas A&M football.
We'll take it. But their away game stat needs to go away.
Yeah.
They need to beat someone.
Absolutely. Hopping into the SEC recap for what was going on this past week. Sorry, I'm a little bit sick this week, but
sick of A&M.
Yeah, Tennessee covers the spread against UConn, 59-3. Which, why are they playing UConn this late in the season? No one knows. I wish we could play UConn right now.
Me too.
Hey, we got ACU coming up though. We might lose that one though, so who knows? Arkansas and Florida, nail biter in OT. Arkansas comes out big in the swamp.
You called it.
Yeah. I need to keep track of my picks because I need to know my record on the season. We'll do that after this podcast.
Yeah.
Jacksonville State giving South Carolina a little bit of a scare, 28-38. It was a little bit closer there, and I was watching the score.
Mm-hmm.
Same thing with Georgia, Missouri, 30-21. Georgia kind of pulls away there in the fourth quarter. Gets a good win against the number 12 Missouri team at the time. Auburn, Vanderbilt, no doubts about it. Auburn was going to win that game, 31-15. Kentucky, Mississippi State, a little bit more of a blowout than we expected. I think we called the run game being a big, 24-3. And then Alabama, LSU, man, this was a fun game to watch. battle between Jalen Daniels and Jalen Milroe, or Jaden Daniels and Jalen Milroe. 28-42, Alabama comes out on top, and I don't think anyone is beating this Alabama team in the West. So we have that pick coming up this week. That's going to be our main card, most likely. But Ole Miss Georgia is going to be our main card this week. But Alabama has Kentucky this week, so nothing too crazy. As far as previewing this next game, what are we thinking, Cade? What's going to be the deciders in this game against Mississippi State?
It's 100% going to be, like, as sad as it is to say, it's going to be the pass defense because Mike Wright hasn't shown any reason for there to be heavy defensive back play or any type of good coverage, but, like, the A&M pass defense has shown just relentlessly that they're going to get beat. So,
yeah, one thing we didn't touch on in this last recap was how many opportunities we were given by the refs. I'm not going to lie, that was the first game I've actually watched in a really long time where the refs actually gave us that game, and we just threw it away.
Yeah.
They had that pass kind of towards the end or whatever. I thought it was over when it was an interception. And he ended up not having possession of it, going out of bounds there at the end. Set up a field goal attempt for us, but
that was the worst feeling because it was like the Kellen Mond game where against LSU, like his knee touched, and so they're like, "Oh, it wasn't an interception after all," and it happened twice to Johnson, and then he just misses the field goal anyways.
Very gracious of the refs.
Yeah,
but
that's a good point.
Previewing this next game, I would really appreciate if the refs show up in this game too, but can't have it every week. So, yeah, no, pass defense is obviously going to be a big deal here. I'm very interested to see who we make look like a star this week for their wide receivers and whose draft stock's about to go up. But
some guy we don't know.
No, I think if we shut down the pass game, I'm not really worried about their run game.
No.
Will Rogers is out, so that's going to help a little bit. They still do have an air raid offense, which happens to counter our defense pretty well. I think the one thing that we are going to have this game more so than the past two games is even more pressure on this Mississippi State offensive line. I think if we can disrupt that and disrupt the pocket, I don't think their backup's going to be able to get off as many passes as possible. It might even force a few turnovers. I'm going to predict I kind of want to predict 2 interceptions, but I know better. I'll predict 1 interception for this game. But yeah, no, I mean, I think you hit the nail right on the head with pass defense being huge. What would be a trending player of the week if you had to pick one?
Like trending upwards?
Yeah, who's the player? Who's the player to watch this week?
Man,
I know it kind of put you on the spot here. We actually didn't play in this part.
I'm gonna say Shamar.
Shamar.
We'll see how
if he
shows up.
can even play. I don't know if he.
Oh, is he out for the first half?
I don't know if he got DQ'd.
Suspended.
I know it was a flagrant. I don't know if flagrants are automatic DQs for the next first half of the game, but
yeah,
I would imagine what he did was not, looked highly upon for the officiating crews in the SEC. But
right,
yeah, I mean, I would say Shamar, if he's going to be available, is going to be big. But for the sake of the game, I think you can never go wrong with Edgerrin Cooper.
No.
I feel like you can always, he'll always be a good training player of the week. I think he'll actually have a standout game this week again. He could actually run for SEC player of the week again. But, I'll go ahead and take Edgerrin Cooper for this week.
Do you think he'll be All-American?
I would hope so. I think he's
too.
gained a lot of respect from a lot of the the people in the college football world, and he's undoubtedly one of the best linebackers in the nation, if not
he's a top
3
sack leader as a linebacker.
Yeah, exactly.
That's
I mean,
crazy.
You have to kind of put him as an All-American, but so kind of wrapping up this podcast here, I think we're going to hop into our SEC predictions of the week. And hopefully we'll have a little board going here soon behind us so we can just do like one of those little bear things where we just kind of put their logo on there and put the spread. We'll do the
mascot head up.
We'll do the pass back spread this week for the games. But so like we talked about a little bit earlier, Ole Miss and Georgia, I think that's going to be obviously our main card that we'll touch on last.
Yeah.
Do you know if that's at Ole Miss or at Georgia? I think it's at Georgia.
It's in Athens.
Yeah, okay. So We'll start off with the worst games. I'll take. I kind of feel the Vanderbilt upset. I'm not gonna lie for South Carolina.
You think so?
I'm gonna take Vanderbilt on this one. That's the first time I've done this on the Passback Pod.
I saw something about Rattler maybe being injured, but Max Johnson might be too. So I'm just gonna pick South Carolina. I don't ever like picking Vanderbilt.
Yeah, me either. It's the first time, probably only time I'll ever do it. But Kentucky, Alabama. Obviously, I'm gonna pick Alabama. No one's gonna beat them for the rest of the season, in my opinion.
I think Kentucky. No, just kidding. I think Bama wins.
But can't agree with you. Auburn, Arkansas is actually going to be a really good game, I think. I'm going to take Auburn on this one. Just I know Arkansas is coming out hot after that Florida win in overtime in the Swamp.
Mm-hmm.
However, I think that was only, you got to remember, that was only their third win of the season. Yeah. I think Auburn is a little bit more prepared. So I'm going to take Auburn, and I'll take them by 6.5.
I'll say Arkansas.
We're going against each other this week.
I know they just won, and that should help them, but it really won't. I think it's just the Auburn's lack of identity on offense. Yeah. Jefferson also is their leading rusher, and he only has 300 yards on the season. But
something to think about. Auburn does have the number 1 red zone defense in the SEC right now.
Do they really?
Yeah, surprisingly enough. It's definitely not A&M.
No, it's not.
Florida, LSU, no doubt about it. I'm going to take LSU. Jaden Daniels, too much. Honestly, I don't know how he's not a Heisman candidate. I saw a stat about him and Joe Burrow side by side, and they have just about the same stats. The only difference is the record.
Only he had the team that Burrow had.
Exactly. Jaden Daniels is right there with Burrow on season stats. But yeah, no, I'll take LSU. I think it's too much for Florida and their defense.
Yeah, Neighbors is gonna toast them.
Yeah, for sure.
It's over.
For sure. Okay, so Tennessee, Missouri. This is number 13 Tennessee versus number 14 Missouri. CBS, primetime game. So, do you know where we're at? And this one is at Neyland.
It's Columbia.
Ooh, man. I'm going to say Tennessee gets it done on the road. I'll take Tennessee by 10.
I'm not even saying this to go against you, but I'm picking Missouri. I don't.
I'm very interested to see how these games turn out this week now.
Me too.
I'll take Tennessee by 10. I feel like that it's risky. Don't get me wrong, it's risky, but
Missouri by 7.
This could really go either way, to be honest with you. I'm not really too sure on this one. This is one of my least confident picks this week.
I think Tennessee is better coaching, but Luther Burden, man.
Yeah. Yeah, I know. Luther Burden. Every single week we say it, he's just too much.
Yep.
Same with Theo Weiss, but 7 o'clock, or actually I guess 6 o'clock here game. Our main card is going to be Ole Miss, Georgia. Shocked that we didn't get a CBS game for this, but
yeah, right.
Man, if there is one team that can beat Georgia, and I feel like I said that about Missouri, but if there is another team that can beat Georgia, I hate that they just beat us, but hotty toddy, I'm going Ole Miss, and I'm going Ole Miss by a field goal.
I like the call, man. I would almost like to see it because I'm tired of Georgia winning, but
yeah, me too.
I'm kind of rooting for Georgia to three-peat now.
I think a lot of people are. Got to be happy for Kirby Smart.
Yeah, absolutely.
He's 90-15 in his tenure at Georgia.
The battle of 2 Saban coaching tree members.
Yeah.
I got to pick Smart and the boys and the dogs.
We're literally going to have opposite picks for the whole weekend.
Dogs by 3. It's going to be a close game.
I think it'll be a close game, too. The Ole Miss offense is going to still perform. All right, so once again, we never pick against the Aggies here on the Pass Back Podcast.
Not yet.
Not yet. But no, yeah, obviously Texas A&M. We're on ESPN 2 this week, so it's kind of lame. But 6:30 game, so night game. Can't be too mad about it. At least we get one.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I'll take Texas A&M in this one. Like we said before, the pass defense is going to be the biggest thing that we have to do to win this game and get pressure against Mississippi State. I think they will be unprepared coming in with their backup quarterback. I will take Texas A&M as a 6.5 point favorite against the Bulldogs this week at Kyle.
I'll say A&M covers that.
All right.
Spread. I think they win. ESPN2 is better than ESPN the Ocho, so I'll take it. But how is Bama A&M not a night game?
No, I know.
Mississippi State A&M is.
That's because we lose, Cade.
That is true.
Because we lose.
All right.
Yeah, I think that's going to be it. There's nothing really else to talk about in the SEC West or anything that's really going on in the SEC East.
No.
It's going to be Georgia, Alabama, if I had to guess, in the championship. If it comes down to that, we'll make our predictions later on. But as of right now, I'm going to go ahead and take Georgia if that comes to fruition.
Yep.
But yeah, no, I think that's pretty much it for this podcast. You have anything else you want to add?
Did you see that segment that they showed about the Trey Harris guy after our game? They said like things he won't catch. Oh, it was so funny.
Oh, wait, yeah. I know what you're talking about. Yeah. No, I can't deal with. I honestly had to get off of social media after the game because I just saw so many Lane Kiffin edits and all this stuff. So that's how it's going to be next year if Texas wins. If Texas wins, I'll uninstall all social media. So you're hearing it right now. I promise you, I will uninstall all social medias for at least a 4 or 5 week period because I know they're going to live in our heads and they're going to try to trash on us for it. But
we'll still be on the pod though.
Yeah, we will still be on the pod. So, all right, I think that's going to be about it. We're here at the Pass Back Podcast. We are looking forward to baseball season. We are a baseball school. But no, we'll be covering baseball here in the spring coming up. And I think that really wraps it up. And that's going to be another episode of the Pass Back Podcast. Thank you guys for liking, commenting, and subscribing. And once again, thank you to the Texas A&M University Gaming and Media Lab. We really appreciate the setup, and all this wouldn't be possible without them. If you're interested in gaming or production or video production, audio production, whatever, they got it all. They meet every Monday. I think it's 7:30 here in Bolton. So yeah, come check them out if you're interested in that. But we'll see you all in the next one. Thank you all for watching.
Thank you, Giggle.